Stylishnaija YouTube channel. Today I'm actually going to be showing you how to drag this side slit tube gown. So you could see the picture up there. So that's what I'm going to be showing you how to drag today. If you are new to my channel, you are highly and very welcome. If you have not subscribed, please do so, subscribe. And then also hit the bell just beside to get an update. And so guys, our registration for our September online classes is ongoing right now. So I'm going to be dropping a number on the description box if you are interested, so you could just send a WhatsApp message on the number. And here on this class, for the intermediate class, I'm really going to be showing you lots how to make beautiful dresses. So you could see, just like this gown that I'm going to be illustrating, I'm going to be showing you how to sew gowns like this in detail. And then in the beginners class and other styles really. So once you're interested, just send a message, and then the course outline will be sent to you. So that's just basically. So now let's just get started. So I have my pattern paper folded into two. So this is the back piece and then this is the front piece. So I'm just going to keep the back piece on the side and then I'll work with this one. So in making a tube dress, the top is actually a tube. I've made tube tops on my channel before, but I'm still going to be going through it again. I'll just go through this one again for the sake of beginners. So the first lines, I have some couple of lines laid out. The first line that I have here, this is just like my start line. So I'm going to be using it as my start line. And then the second line that I have is my bust line. I'm going to be showing you. This is my bust line, and then this is the under bust line, and then this is my waist line. So in making a tube dress like this, it's just like standard. If you don't want it to be too deep, a more modest one, even more modest than this one that I have the picture up here, you actually make use of 5 inches. You use 5 inches to drop the shoulder. That's the tube. It cuts across. The cut across. That's from the shoulder to this point is usually 5 inches. So you could do 8, which will be really deep. But the standard for a modest one is actually 5 inches. So that is why I'm going to be placing my tape like this, and then I'm placing it at 5 inches. So this 5 inches will be like my start-up line. And then from the shoulder line, that's from this shoulder to my bust point, is actually 10 inches. So this is my 10 inches now. That's my bust line, which is the nipple point. Then the under bust, you could see I have it here. The under bust I have here is 14 inches, which is this point. That's my under bust. And then my waistline is 17 inches, which is this point where you could see the gown where the cut is going to be. So these are just like those basic measurement that you need. So I'm just going to fold it, and then I'll start inserting my tube marks on it. So the first thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to use my bust span measurement in darting this dress. And the dart that I'm going to be using, I'm making use of 4.5, which is the measurement of my bust span, which is 9 inches. When you divide 9 inches into 2, that's the allowance included, you have 4.5 inches. Because it's actually supposed to be 8 inches. So the allowance plus the allowance, that's 9 inches. When you divide into 2, you have 4.5. So I'm just going to mark them out like this. I'm just going to use dotted lines to indicate them, and then I'll come to the under bust line too. I'll mark the 4.5. I'll come to the waistline. I'll mark the 4.5, and then I'll connect all of them with my ruler, just like this. So the next thing I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be taking out the darts, and in taking out the darts for this tube dress, I'm going to be coming up on this side, on the right hand side of my chest line now. So I'm just going to call this my chest line. That's where the shoulder is dropping from. I'm using 1 inch here to the right hand side, and then I'm using ½ inch to this left hand side. So you could decide to do 1 inch, depends on you, but I've been using this and it has been working, so I don't have any problem. So from my under bust measurement, that's my under bust line, I'm going to measure 1 inch to this right hand side, and then I'll take another 1 inch to the left hand side. So this is going to serve as my dart for this tube. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to connect this line to this point and then to this point. So I'm just going to use dotted lines so you understand it properly. And then from those points, I'll connect this one to this point. And then from this one, that's the ½ inch side that I took from this side, I'm just going to do this, and then I'll come to this point. I'm going to do that now. Connect them first. I'll use my ruler. So from this point now, I'm going to come down. So I'm going to blend this part up. I don't want them sharp. I'm just going to use my pattern curve now to blend it. I'll blend this other side also now. So you could see it's blended properly. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to continue now with my measurement. So I'm going to be measuring out on the shoulder measurement. So the shoulder measurement that I'm going to be using for this tube the top part, I'm going to be making use of 7 inches, which is 7 inches. That's 14 inches. When you divide 14 into 2, you have 7 inches. So this is 7 inches. Okay, I think I should rather use 15, which is 7.5. So this is 7.5. When you divide 15 into 2, you have 7.5. So from this middle point, that's from the center front, this is 7.5. So and then I'm going to, you remember this 1.5 inches, this one was 1 inch, and then this is half inch. So we're going to be adding it back in, so you don't your fabric or pattern is not truncated. So I'll add the 1.5. So this is the 1.5, this one that we took out, this is the 1.5. So and then I'll now add my allowance. So I'll add from this 1.5, I'll add 2 inches allowance. Is okay for a pattern like this. So I'm just adding the allowance directly. So from this point now, the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be measuring out my armhole line. And you remember the armhole, we already took out 5 inches from the top. So a regular armhole is usually between 8 and 9. So I'm just going to use 8 inches for this. So this is my 8 inches. So you see my tape is placed like this for me to get the 8 inches. So I'm just going to make a straight line on it like this. So this is my straight line. So, and then the next thing I'm going to do now for this, I'm just going to blend it out like this, because at the end of the day, I'm really not going to be using it since it is a tube. I just want it here. So you just leave it that way. So the next thing I'm going to measure now, I'm going to measure out the bust measurement. The bust measurement is 36. So when you divide 36 into 4, you have 9 inches. So I'm just going to place my tape here like this. And then I'll measure out my 9 inches. So this is my 9 inches on the bust line. And then I'll add my allowance to it. So this is like my allowance now. So I'm just going to rule a straight line from this point to this. So this is the bust line measurement. Then the under bust measurement that I'm going to be using, I'm going to make use of 30 inches. So when you divide 30 into 4, you have 7.5. So this is the 7.5 here. And you remember these 2 inches, this, that, and 2 inches. We're going to add it back into it. So this is 7.5, and then you add 2 inches to 7.5. So this is the 2 inches here. And then I'm going to add my allowance now. So I'm just going to slant down from this point like this. So the next thing that is remaining now is the waistline. So and you remember we still took out 2 inches from this point. So the waist measurement actually is 32 inches. The waist measurement is 32 inches, which is 8 inches. When you divide 32 into 4, you have 8 inches. This is 8 inches. And then I'll add back the 2 inches, and then I'll add back my allowance. So I'm just going to rule it out like this. So this is what we have. So now I'm going to cut out, but I'm not cutting out the armhole part. So I'm not cutting it out because it is a tube and top. That's it, because the top part is a tube. So I'm not cutting it out. So I'm just going to cut like this. Okay guys, so the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be working on the neckline. So in making a neckline like this, you have to consider the first part, that's the 5 inches that we removed initially. So if you want, depends on how deep you want it to be. So for this, I'm going to be making the depth of the front part, I'm going to be making it to be 7.5 inches. So I'll subtract the 5 inches from top, and then I'll mark 2.5 here. So I'm going to be making an arc from this point now to this point. I'm going to be making use of 3.5 inches. That's for the depth of the neckline. So I'm going to be making like a reverse arc like this, because it is like a sweetheart neck. I'm coming like this, so you could see I'm coming to, this is the 3.5 part, and then from this 3.5 part, I'm going to measure how many inches do I have from this point, which is ½ inch. That's from this front line. So, and then I'm going to place it here also, because I want the arc to continue. So I'm just going to place it here, and then I'm going to continue with the circle from this point like this. I'm just trying to get it out, curved out first. So, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'll slant it from this point. I'm going to be slanting it to my armhole line. So this is my armhole point, that's where the bust measurement ends. So I'm just going to be coming like this. So you for this, you could determine how wide you want it to be, depends on you. So in determining how wide it is, you just put your tape here like this. If for instance, because what I'm using now is 7 inches, that's the depth. What I mean by the depth, that's where the tube is going to be. It starts from your shoulder to this point. I'm using 7 inches. If you want it deeper, you could come down more. If you want it up more, if you don't want it opening, you could go up more. So you just determine, you place your tape like this, and then you check where your slant is going to be. For this, I'm using 7 inches. So this is the 7 inches. So you could see the mark here. This is 7 inches. If you want it higher, you could just come up a bit like this. If you want it higher, you could come up. You could decide to do this. So that's why I'm using the blue marker, so in order for you to see it. If you want it higher, you could decide to make use of this line like this, and then you're slanting it to your, let it go into your armhole point. So that is that. So for this now, I'm just going to connect my curve. I'm just going to connect it now. So I'm coming to this point in trying to create that arc. So you could see that arc, the creating of the arc on it. So I'm going to cut it out now. So guys, so you could see the arc on it already. So I'm just going to open it up now for you to see. So you could see it. So we're done for the top part. So guys, for the back pattern, I have my lines back on it. This is the bust line, the under bust line, and then the waistline, and then my 4.5 inches on that line. So I'm just going to be showing you how to dart the back now. You could use any, you could decide to do the shoulder dart upward, or you could decide to do the regular waist dart. So I'm just going to be doing the regular waist dart. So I'm just going to come to this point now. I'll take my 1 inch to this side, 1 inch to this side, and then I'm going to be connecting it to my bust line. So I'm just going to take this, because I'm trying to get out the shape, that's the sleeve part, that's the bust part. I'm trying to get out the curve. I'm just trying to mark it out in order for me to get it perfectly well. So this is where I'm going to be slanting it from. So this is the essence. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now, so you could decide for a tube like this, the back, you could decide to make it deeper than this one, or you could decide to come up more. So it depends on what you want. So I'm just going to try and make the deeper one. So I'm just going to be taking 9 inches to this point. So I've separated the 5 inches from the top, or I should make use of 8.5. So the next thing I'm going to be doing now, I'm just going to connect my tube to this point like this. I'm just going to be connecting it straight like this. So that means the neck line of the back is just going to be straight. So that's just like basically. So I'm just going to place it again to make sure to see it out properly. So this is how the back is going to be. It's going to be deeper than the front. So and you just cut it out. So that's just basically how you dart out the back. Then the shape on the side, you make sure it's like this, and then I'm just going to place it like this, and then I'll cut out the side. So the side, you make sure that the side is the same, and then you cut out this back part. So this is, and then you open up this part because of the zipper allowance. So this is our back pattern. I'm just going to fold it like this, and then this is the front. So the next thing I'm going to cut, now I'm going to be working on the skirt part. Okay guys, so the next thing we're going to do now, I'm going to be drafting the skirts and part of this gown. So in drafting a skirt like this, you have to consider the full length of your gown. And the full length of this gown is actually 53 inches. So when you subtract, remember the top part was actually 17 inches. So when you subtract 17 from 53, you have 36. So I have my pattern paper length here. It's folded at it's folded at 36 inches rather. So I'm just going to be drafting it in here now. And then, so the first thing I'm going to measure now, for measuring out the skirt, I'm going to measure out the waist and measurement. So I have some couple of lines. So this is the waist line, and then this is the hip line, and then this is my knee line, and then the hem line. So the first thing now, measure out the waist, which is 32. When you divide 32 into 4, you have 8 inches. So this is the 8 inches. And then I'm just going to add my allowance to it. So you could do 2 inches or 3 inches allowance, depends. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to measure out the hip line measurement. And then the hip measurement is 40 inches. So I'm going to place my 40 inches like this. And then I'll add my allowance. So I'm just going to be making a slant like this for the hip measurement. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'll measure out the knee measurement. And the knee measurement, you could decide to, if you want it really small, you could decide to subtract between 2 and 4 inches. If you subtract 2 inches from the hip measurement for the knee will be okay. It will just be like normal. But if you subtract between 4 and 5 inches, the knee part will be small, and it tends to bring out the fittings. But the only problem is the working part. But since this gown has a slit on the side, so I advise you remove as much, like you remove like 4 inches. You could do between 4 and 5 inches because it has a slit. So, and there's no way it's going to be tight. So now for the knee measurement, we're going to be using 7.5 inches. And then I'll add the allowance to it also. So I'm just going to slant it to this point like this. And then from this point, I'm going to be making use of my entire width, what I have here, because this gown actually has a gullet on it. So I'm just going to slant from this point like this. I'm going to slant it to this point. So I'm going to connect my lines now. So guys, you can see my skirt pattern. So what I'm going to do now, before I cut it out, I'm going to get another pattern that I will use for the back, because I'm going to be showing you how to achieve and that slit that is on the side is, maybe I'll call it rather a cut. So I'm just going to place it like this. I'll place the back and the front together, adding your zipper allowance for the back pattern. So I'll cut it off. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be darting this part of the skirt. So you just do your regular skirt dart on it. I'm opening it up now. So the next thing I'm going to do now, in order for me to achieve the side and slit, I'm going to be stitching this side. So I'm going to make use of my stapler to stitch it out and then show you how to achieve that curve on the side. So I'm just going to do that now. You have to consider how wide it's going to be, because you know a tool was actually added to the side. So you decide to use, if you are going to be using a matching tool or if you are going to be using a darker tool. So and then how wide you actually want your opening to be, so you consider. So for this, I'm just going to be doing something moderate. It will not be too revealing. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So in doing this, you come to your hip line. Depends on how deep, how high also you want it to be. So from this, because the one on the picture, it actually started from the hip line. So for this, I'm going to be doing the hip line part. If you want it down, you could decide to come down a bit from the hip line. If you want it a little bit closer, you could decide to even start it from your hip, from your knee line, and then take it down. So it just depends on you. So I'm going to be starting from the hip line. So from the hip line, I'm going to measure out 1 inch. From my hip line, I'm just going to measure out 1 inch or 1.5. So it depends. 1 inch, yeah, I should do 1 inch. So I'm going to measure out 1 inch from this point, and then I'll come down a bit and then measure out 2.5. And then as I'm coming down, I'm just like increasing it with like half inch. So I'm using 3.5 now. So and then when I get to my knee line, I'm going to be making use of 4 inch. So this is 4 inch on the knee line, 3.5. Just like that. So and then the next thing I'm going to be coming to just below the knee. I'm coming down, reducing it back again to 3 inches. And then this, you could decide to do it however you want to. So you could decide to do it. It does not really have any standard measurement. So and then the down part, I'm going to be using 1 inch, because the dress is going to be open naturally from that side. So I'm going to use my curve to connect the curve. I'm just going to use it to connect the lines. So guys, so you could see the mark there. So I'm going to cut it out now. So guys, after cutting it out, this piece, if you are going to be adding a tool to it, you don't need to get and allow this piece to get missing. So you could even decide to switch up this style a bit, and then you could decide to replace this whole piece with a tool. So that means the tool will start from the top to the down. You could decide to do that, or you could decide to do like what we have on the picture, and then you cut it out from the knee line. That's, you cut out this part now. You just cut out from this part. That's this knee line point like this. I'm just going to separate it. You cut out this point, add allowance to it, like 1 inch allowance, and then you replace this point with your tool. You replace this point with your tool, and then you attach it back, and then you have your side slit on the skirt. So and then you could decide to add a gordette to it. That's the back of the skirt. If you want it fuller, you could decide to add a gordette to it. I have another gown pattern like this that I showed how to actually attach gordette to. I will drop the link on the description box, so you could see how to attach the gordette to it to make it to flow more. So that's just like basically this gown. And then the sleeve, in a later video I'm going to be showing you how to achieve that sleeve. I'm not going to be doing it here now in this video, so I'll show you in another video. So if you know you actually want it, you could drop a comment. That's just it. I think if I get a request to do it, you could drop a comment that you want to learn how to make the sleeve, then I'll do that. Or else it's just like a regular pencil sleeve with a sharp cap. So that's just basically that. So guys, so this is the tube gown. So I'm just going to shift my things a bit so you could get a full view of it. So guys, so I have now come to the end of this illustration. If you like what I actually did with this video, please do not hesitate to hit on the like button, subscribe if you have not done so already. So thank you so much for watching. See you.